Nigeria is once again in the global headlines, and it's not at all for good reasons. In just 1 week, armed gunmen stormed schools, kidnapped hundreds of students, and attacked a church service. More than 300 children were taken from a Catholic school in Niger State alone. In another attack, a school in Kebbi was raided, a vice principal was killed, and 25 girls were abducted. A church in Kwara state was also attacked, leaving 2 dead and dozens kidnapped. But what exactly is happening? Why are school children being taken again and again? And what is the root cause of this crisis? Hello and welcome to Connecting the Dots. I'm Unman Bhattacharya. Let's connect the dots. These incidents have forced Nigerian President Bola Tinubu to postpone foreign trips. They have also intensified pressure from the international community, especially after US President Donald Trump threatened fast and vicious military action over what he called the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. In Niger State, parents rushed to St. Mary's Catholic School after hearing gunshots. What they found was an empty compound. Classrooms were vacant, the dormitories were silent.
I came to the school, I'm here searching and looking whether I will see any child that returned, but I'm not seeing any child.
Gunmen had abducted 303 students and 12 staff members. Thankfully, at least 50 of them later escaped, but more than 250 children are still missing. The shock spread across the country. In Lagos, residents described their frustration.
Let them mobilize security agents, all the consigns, let them make sure that insecurity is stopped in Nigeria. Some time ago, I had a foreign country planning coming to Nigeria to do something concerning it. And up till now, they are still killing and nothing is done. They should do something concerning it.
Within days, another school in Kebbi was attacked. 25 girls were kidnapped and the vice principal who tried to resist was shot dead. In Zamfara, 64 people were abducted from their homes. And in Kwara, gunmen opened fire inside a church, killing 2 worshippers and kidnapping 38 others. Their captors later demanded 100 million naira, which is about $69,000 per person. The scale of abductions was so severe that Niger State shut down all schools, be it public, private or religious.
Nigeria is the only country we have, and Niger State is our state. As such, we must continue as government to protect the lives and properties of our citizens. In this decision, the stakeholders today have decided to close all schools in Niger State. And if there are other schools that are in vulnerable areas, the state government will also close them down. All schools in Niger North will also be closed completely until further notice.
Even Pope Leo XIV issued an emotional appeal for the release of the children.
Ho appreso con immensa tristezza.
I was deeply saddened to learn of the kidnappings of priests, faithful, and students in Nigeria and Cameroon. I make a heartfelt appeal for the immediate release of the hostages.
What is happening in Nigeria is not new. The country has seen repeated mass kidnappings over the last decade. Each time, the country grieves. Each time, leaders promise action. Yet, the cycle continues. So the critical question is, why is it happening? So far, no group has claimed responsibility for the latest attacks. But security agencies say the attackers are armed gangs known locally as bandits. These are criminal groups driven not by ideology, but by ransom. They move on motorcycles, shoot to create panic, and snatch victims. They disappear into forests where security forces struggle to reach them. The attacks are quick, coordinated, and repeated across many states. Security analysts say the motive is money. Schools are soft targets because they are poorly protected, isolated, and filled with vulnerable children whose parents will do anything to bring them home. Kidnapping has become an industry. Every successful ransom payment encourages more abductions. Communities already dealing with poverty are forced into impossible choices to pay or risk losing their children. So these bandit groups see there is a lot of money in this criminal enterprise. To understand today's crisis, we need to look deeper beyond individual attacks. We need to delve deeper into the system that allows these gangs to thrive. Nigeria is dealing with several overlapping issues. First, vast ungoverned areas. Northern Nigeria is huge. It is actually bigger than many countries. Large areas are forested, remote, and the policing system is inadequate and very weak. This gives armed groups safe havens to camp, train, and hide victims. And then comes the overstretched security force. Nigeria has the largest military in sub-Saharan Africa, but it is fighting on multiple fronts, like bandit gangs in the northwest, extremist groups like Boko Haram, and Islamic State West Africa province in the northeast. There are also deadly clashes between farming and herding communities in the central region. The challenges are spread across more than 20 out of 36 states. The northwest Nigeria, where many kidnappings occur, faces deep poverty. With few opportunities, young men are recruited into bandit groups. Some join willingly for money, others join out of fear. Traditional leaders often negotiate with bandit gangs, sometimes paying them to stop attacks. These deals are fragile and eventually encourage more violence. The recent attack on a Catholic school and a church has raised questions internationally, especially after President Trump accused Nigeria of failing to protect Christians. However, experts and NGOs caution against this narrative. Namdi Obasi of the International Crisis Group says both Christians and Muslims are victims. Many of the attacks occur in predominantly Muslim states. Some kidnappings target churches, others target Islamic schools. Nigeria's government insists that the crisis is not religious persecution, but a wider security collapse driven by banditry, extremism, and local disputes. Still, religious tensions remain sensitive. Nigeria is home to more than 200 ethnic groups and a population almost evenly divided between Christians and Muslims. Any attack on a religious site inflames fear and can deepen mistrust. After last week's kidnappings, President Tinubu ordered the hiring of 30,000 more police officers. He also moved police officers away from VIP escorts so that they can focus on protecting rural areas. Troops have been deployed to multiple states. Air Force strikes continue against insurgent camps, and governors have shut down dozens of schools to prevent more attacks. Yet, many Nigerians still feel unsafe.
I don't think anybody feels safe. Aside me, I don't think anybody feels safe for what is happening in Nigeria presently, because the kidnapping, the bandits everywhere, the killing, everybody is so scared.
International pressure is also building. A senior US State Department official said Washington is considering sanctions and expanded counterterrorism cooperation to push Nigeria to improve protection for Christian communities and vulnerable groups. Mass kidnappings were once rare in Nigeria, but today they are becoming alarmingly common. Vacant classrooms are certainly not a good thing to see. Nigeria waits for its children to return home safely. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, dancing with his wife, Celia Flores in Caracas, an unusual sight amid gathering war clouds. US Venezuela tensions are threatening to spiral out of control, and here is Maduro appearing nonchalant and putting on a brave face before students.
Es viernes. ¿Y qué pasa el viernes?
Is it Friday? And what happens on Friday? And what we are going to do today? Peaceful Venezuela. Friday night declares itself in total party mode. Party, party, party. It's Friday, and I'm going partying, and no one can stop me.
Es viernes y me voy de rumba.
So, what could come next in the US Venezuela tensions? Let's connect the dots. Reuters reports that the United States is poised to launch a new phase of operations against Venezuela in the coming days. The report is based on conversations it had with 4 unnamed US officials. 2 of the US officials say covert operations would likely be the first part of the new action against Maduro. But at the same time, nothing is being ruled out in terms of the scope of action against Venezuela. Amid the impending US action, US Federal Aviation Administration warned major airlines of a potentially hazardous situation while flying over the airspace of Venezuela. As a result, several international airlines cancelled their flights that were scheduled to depart from the Latin American country. In fact, reports of looming action by the United States have been gathering steam in recent weeks since the US military deployed forces to the Caribbean amid worsening relations with Venezuela. The US Navy's largest aircraft carrier, the Gerald R. Ford, arrived in the Caribbean on November 16th with its strike group. It joins at least 7 other warships, a nuclear submarine, and F-35 aircraft. A military build-up in the Caribbean has been underway for months, with US forces in the region focusing so far on counter-narcotics operations. Since September, US troops have carried out at least 21 strikes on alleged drug boats. In those strikes, at least 83 people were killed, most of them in the Caribbean, although vessels in the Pacific Ocean have also been targeted. Human rights groups have condemned the strikes as illegal extrajudicial killings of civilians. Some US allies have also expressed growing concerns that Washington may be violating international law. So why are Trump and Maduro at loggerheads? The Trump administration has been weighing Venezuela-related options to combat what it calls Maduro's role in supplying illegal drugs that have killed Americans. As per 2 US officials, the options under consideration included attempting to overthrow Maduro. Maduro has been in power since 2013. He says Trump wants to oust him and that Venezuelan citizens and the military will resist any such attempt. Maduro also sees US actions as a bid to take control of Venezuela's oil. Be that as it may, Trump is surely upping the ante. In its latest action, the United States has designated Cartel of the Suns a foreign terrorist organization for its alleged role in importing illegal drugs into the United States. The Trump administration accuses Maduro of leading Cartel of the Suns, a charge Maduro denies. Trump says the designation allows the United States to strike Maduro's assets and infrastructure in Venezuela. In August, Washington doubled its reward for information leading to Maduro's arrest to $50 million. So amid the saber rattling, what's the scope of a de-escalation? Brazil, that shares a border with Venezuela, is quite concerned about the US military buildup near Venezuela. President Lula says he intends to speak to Trump about it.
And I think it makes no sense to have a war now. In other words, we are not going to repeat the mistake that happened in the war between Russia and Ukraine. To start, it only takes a single shot. To end, no one knows how it ends. So it's important that we try to find a solution before it starts. I want to tell you that I'm very concerned and I would like nothing to happen. You know, nothing. Nothing militarily in South America.
Nada militarmente na América do Sul.
Trump, on his part, is not averse to talks either. He has indicated a willingness to potentially pursue talks in the hope of a diplomatic solution. Maduro too says that the country's differences should be resolved through diplomacy and that he is willing to hold face-to-face talks with anyone interested. Two US officials have acknowledged conversations between Caracas and Washington. What is not clear is if those conversations could impact the timing or scale of potential US operations. For now, the situation is tense amid intensifying US military deployments in the Caribbean and Venezuela mobilizing militarily in response. Maduro's government is preparing for potential US military moves with a nationwide mobilization and prolonged resistance guerrilla tactics. This indicates its readiness for asymmetrical warfare to withstand US attacks. While US preference appears to be a political outcome whereby Maduro resigns peacefully rather than a direct military invasion, Maduro refuses to go. In these circumstances, here's what may happen. The United States may resort to targeted strikes against drug trafficking infrastructure linked to Maduro's government, escalate covert operations, impose more sanctions, and also support opposition forces without deploying ground troops. At the same time, talks and indirect negotiations could take place behind the scenes with a political settlement or regime change as the hoped-for outcome by the US. But if the US were to attempt to remove Maduro by force, then expect prolonged guerrilla warfare, regional instability, and humanitarian crisis due to potential civilian flight. The Venezuelan military is considered weak but is prepared for asymmetrical resistance, while various armed factions and groups in the region could complicate any post-Maduro scenario with insurgencies and crime. So to sum it up, it is a tinderbox situation. There is a high risk of protracted violence and instability if the situation deteriorates further. A full-blown military conflict is possible, but not inevitable. That's all in this edition of Connecting the Dots. We'll see you in the next episode with more raging issues. Until then, it's a goodbye from all of us in the Delhi newsroom. This is Munmun Bhattacharya signing off. Take care and stay safe.